The results of a disarmed population. Tish James is about to learn her lesson. And our very special guest, VALDEZ from Gun Owners of America. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Wass. Just 3 weeks before the recent Florida State University attack, Florida Republican State Senator Elena Garcia joined Democrats as they all worked together in an effort to keep students unarmed, defenseless, and helpless on campus. Well, they succeeded. Garcia and her anti-gun cohorts rejected SB 814, which was a bill that would have allowed students the ability to exercise their Second Amendment right and potentially prevent this latest heinous act of human violence from taking place on the Tallahassee campus. State Senator Randy Fine, a Republican who sponsored SB 814, said adults should have the right to protect themselves on campus, particularly after so many universities across America chose to protect Muslim terror advocates over their own students. There's no magic force field that keeps criminals from carrying a gun onto campus. This bill will ensure that students have the same rights on campus as they do off. Well, apparently, some lawmakers, like Garcia, simply don't want students to be safe. Joe Biden's Gun-Free School Zones Act is likely the primary driver of the disarmament at the school during this particular killing. But Florida lawmakers have certainly contributed to the environment that allowed such an act of violence to occur. Many think those who purposely put people in danger with gun-free zone policies should bear some responsibility and possibly legal accountability. For more Second Amendment content, check out my Good Gun, Bad Guy book series at goodgunbadguy.com. And we're going to talk about this and many other things with, he doesn't harass people online, he just points out their flaws. John Chiara.
Yo.
And he's really not as mean as he looks. Anthony Diso. All right. So we got a great show today. We got VALDEZ coming from Gun Owners of America, coming up real soon. But the focus is going to be on Florida. So we all think Florida's like this great conservative state for gun laws, but they're not. They got a bunch of rhinos over there. What are you guys' thoughts on the FSU killing and being a gun-free zone? All right, don't speak up too soon. They're a little shy, folks. I'm sorry.
We all know how we feel about gun-free zones, right?
Yeah.
And we all know how we feel about that gun laws don't affect criminals, right? So you put all that in a basket and shake it up and you throw it out, and what do you got? You got crap. Yeah. I don't know how people can still consistently claim that, we have to do something about these things. Okay, what are you going to do? But I don't have the answers.
Well, that's the thing. They'll always say, we need to do something. We need to, and that always means more gun laws. But it just
never work. Well, okay, they make it personal again. Take the big picture, make it personal. Here comes somebody after you with a knife or whatever, trying to do you harm.
You've already been disarmed.
You've already been disarmed. Are you happy about that?
Right.
Like, what's the upside of that?
They would tell you to run.
Yeah.
Well, great. What if you're in a wheelchair or something? What if you have a disability? What if you can't run?
You know how many times I talk to these anti-gun libs and they say things as ridiculous as, well, I certainly wouldn't carry a gun, but I would have a conversation with them. Yeah, you're going to have a conversation.
What if they're in a wheelchair? What, Meals on Wheels? Huh?
Could be. God. I'm a big fan of Meals on Wheels.
But I mean, that's the mindset. They don't. I don't think either they don't understand because they've never actually been in a situation, a life or death situation, where they need to defend themselves, or they know that it's a bad idea and they're just so stuck on their politics.
Well, I think this all plays back into the victim mentality that we were going into last week about this. And I thought the other day that, I don't know anybody who's a gun owner who has a victim mentality. They're proactive by nature.
By nature,
right?
Yeah, that's
by
a good
nature.
point.
So all these people that are being victims all the time, they're the ones that would not be able to protect themselves in a certain situation. They probably would run away from everything. I mean, they wouldn't be able to do anything about anything ever. But they want to impose that on the people that are taking care of themselves. And it's so anti-liberty right off the bat. The whole thing is just upside down. But you can't, I try to have a conversation about that. It's really hard.
Because I think they've committed to this anti-gun position, right? So they're already committed to that. I mean, the minute you go to an anti-gun rally and you hold up a sign that says, ban ARs or whatever, you've committed yourself to it. You're committed to the cause, and you can't really go back. So now I think a lot of these anti-gunners really are locked in, because what would it mean about them if they went back on what they,
everything they believed was wrong.
Right, exactly. So, but at the same time, they probably understand that gun owners are going to be able to protect themselves, and they're not. That's the difference. They know that they're unarmed and helpless, and they know that us pro-gunners are not. They know that we can protect ourselves, and they probably don't like that either.
They're afraid. It's the victim, always the victim. Always somebody else is going to do something to me. Yeah. My feelings are the result of what other people do. Other people affect this. We have to control all those other people. How about you just control yourself? And then maybe you get a little bit, and this is what I said to somebody today. I says, why don't you try looking at the other side of things and get some insight into how these other people think? Like, how about you look at what the 77 million people voted for Trump think before you double down on your hatred for Trump and think that the world should be different than it is. It's such a, I have fears for the midterm elections because everybody's going to double down on stuff and it's going to get crazy, and there might be enough stupid people to actually, cross lines or whatever. But if you just look at what people care about, then maybe you can understand the people. Well, people won't even do that. I've recommended podcasts to people, and a few of them said, we watched, and I said, if you want to understand what large groups of people care about, pay attention to what large groups of people pay attention to. Yeah. If they care about these things, learn about those things. Don't read hit pieces on those things.
Right, exactly.
A lot of people like Jordan Peterson. Let's read some hit pieces on Jordan Peterson. He's no good, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you're enlightened now. Right. Tell me what to do.
How come they can't get rid of Joe Biden's Gun-Free Zone Act? Why can't it get just...
It would... it's part of the Crime Control Act, which is one thing. So the Crime Control Act consisted of a lot of different things. The Gun-Free School Zones Act was just part of it.
It was a big omnibus thing, probably. Right?
Yeah, like a big collection of gun-related and crime-related. I think there's some police reforms and things like that. But so it's a good question. I think somebody needs to, but first of all, there needs to be a loss before somebody can take that to court, from what I understand. So in other words, it might be a parent whose child got killed in one of these gun-free school zones. And then that parent could probably file a lawsuit, maybe, I don't know who, maybe against the school. I'm just guessing here. I'm not an attorney.
That's a good issue. I mean,
yeah.
They're all worried about suing the gun manufacturers and things like that, right?
Right. Well, that's the problem. Most of the parents whose children die in these situations are then convinced by the school and by the media that now that your child is gone, we need your support to push for more gun control. Right. So they capture them and they get them to rally over to the other side. When what really needs to happen is they have to see this thing for what it really is. The reason your child is dead is because there was no armed security, because of the Gun-Free School Zones Act. So
they prey on their emotions.
Of course, yeah. So I think if we had a parent or group of parents that decided they wanted to sue the school or sue the government or whoever for the Gun-Free School Zones Act, I think that might lead to some national lawsuit that could probably do something. You got to get rid of that. The problem with the Gun-Free School Zones Act is this. They do, in the law, it allows for schools to assign specific security guards and things like that with firearms. So it doesn't completely eliminate guns, only in the hands of those who are authorized by the school. So they have that loophole in there where, wait a minute, well, we can put armed security in. So why don't you?
But the schools won't.
But they won't do it. So the problem is parents can't and teachers can't arm themselves. So like if I was a teacher at a school, I'd want to carry a gun every day, all day, because just of these situations. And I'd want everybody carrying who would be inclined to carry a gun. The janitor, the lunch lady, I don't care who it is, as long as you're comfortable carrying a gun and that's what you do, then you should be able to carry it there. But the problem is, ever since the 90s, and Bill Clinton had a lot to do with this, they demonized gun ownership so badly that the people at the schools, the school boards and everything, they would never go for it because they would get ridiculed, because it's not only is it illegal, but it's also it's taboo now.
Right. It's demonized. They make make the gun the bad thing.
Right.
So can't have anything good to happen with guns around.
Yeah. And I'm doing a piece for Gun Owners of America, and we're talking about the school board in Saratoga Springs, New York, who had armed security for years and years and nothing. They never had any issues. And then all of a sudden, this liberal gaggle of idiots decides they want to remove the firearms from the armed security guards. So there was this was a few years back, and so the people came out. I came out, spoke to the news, went on the news and everything, and spoke against this. And luckily, by the skin of our teeth, we were able to they were outvoted second time around, and then so they are still armed, but it's very few armed security. It doesn't even amount to much.
It's like these stupid liberals want kids to get killed.
You would think so. By looking at the results, yes, you would think so.
That's got to be the mentality. Why wouldn't you want anyone armed in school?
Yeah. And if you're going to do armed security, you have to do it right.
Before there was gun-free zones, were there like tons of school shootings before that?
No.
I don't remember any of that.
No.
If you notice, ever since the Gun-Free School Zones Act went into effect in 1990, school killings since then have doubled and increase at twice the rate of increase every 10 years. So every 10 years, you've got twice as many school killings as you've had in the previous 10 years.
It's compounding itself,
compounding,
getting worse and worse.
So that's the result. But, I've been screaming it from the mountaintop. You guys know. And nobody's doing anything about it. So we're going to keep talking about it. But
and how the parents should just go along with it. It
How
doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. If your kid gets killed in a gun-free school zone, knowing that the perpetrator knew that no one would be there armed, how can you not be pissed off about that?
I know.
Be pissed.
It's ridiculous. And we're going to talk more about this later in the show when we get Lewis on here. Lewis is he's going to enlighten us on a lot of stuff when it comes to this stuff, especially in Florida. But you want to know who's fighting for your gun rights? Gun Owners of America. Now, GOA is the no compromise gun rights group, so I urge you to become a member at gunowners.org. What have they done? Well, GOA secured a preliminary injunction against the ATF pistol brace rule. GOA members submitted a record 85,000 plus comments opposing the ATF's universal registration check rule. They helped enact permitless carry in Nebraska and Florida. GOA secured victories in California, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Plus, they won 2 legal victories against the ATF's zero-tolerance policy, and GOA fought to overturn Joe Biden's ban on funding hunter education, shooting sports, and archery in schools. So with the constant attacks on our Second Amendment, we often ask ourselves, well, what can I do about it? Well, this is what you can do. You can become a member at gunowners.org and help us save the Second Amendment. So I got a story here that I wanted to talk about before Lewis comes on. And it's from Fox News, and the headline is Trump claims Biden pardons are void, alleging that they were signed via auto pen. So we've all heard about this. So right. So wouldn't it be interesting if Trump if all Biden's executive orders. Right. Well, President Donald Trump claimed that former President Joe Biden's pardons of lawmakers who served on the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th Capitol so-called riot and others are void. So, alleging that they had been signed via an auto pen and that Biden did not even know about them. The pardons that Sleepy Joe gave to the Unselect Committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by auto pen. Trump claimed in a Truth Social post. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them. This is another quote. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and people that did may have committed a crime, Trump added. Okay, so these guys are all out of jail now. They were in there for 4 years, rotten in jail, treated like crap in one of the worst prisons, and then you had this select committee of Democrats who fabricated all this nonsense about these people and hid and destroyed evidence that would have exonerated them. And apparently Joe Biden signed off on all of it, and now we find out that let me correct that. Joe Biden pardoned them.
Right.
With an auto pen. So now, is it possible, I'll ask you guys, get your opinion, is it possible now that those people are not free from investigation and indictments?
Good to look into, right? I mean, I don't see why we shouldn't be looking into that. Because if they can show that Biden didn't know that those things were going on, he's the one that's supposed to pardon them, right? Not somebody else in the office or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going to...
And this goes back again, that whole thing. All those people, half those people that were put in jail were jailed on misdemeanor charges, trespassing charges. Nobody goes to jail for a misdemeanor trespassing charge. It's insanity. The whole thing was...
For 4 years, too.
Corrupt. Just corrupt down to the core.
So disgusting. It really...
Disgusting, I say.
Really, I mean, it really makes me angry that they got away with that crap.
It's a good example of what we always talk about.
What?
Scumbaggetry.
Oh, scumbaggetry. We got to bring that back, yeah. I think Anthony coined a new term.
John's spreading it around.
I am spreading it.
You using it?
At all the local music shows, I'm saying it to people, so... Don't be taking part in any scumbaggetry.
Don't. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, Republican Representative Elise Stefanik blasts upstate New York school district for defying Trump's order on trans athletes and DEI. It's a story by the New York Post. Elise Stefanik blasted in New York schools gender expansive policies and warned federal funding could be at stake because they contradicted President Trump's executive order on transgender athletes in girls' sports. The upstate Republican said Saratoga Springs countered Trump's directive and an order against diversity, equity, and inclusion programs earlier this month when the Board of Education passed a resolution pledging support for transgender students to participate in sports consistent with their gender identity. The Saratoga Springs Board, which we talked about just a little while ago with the gun-free zone. So Saratoga Springs, New York is at it again, apparently. They're pledging support for transgender students to participate in sports consistent with their gender identity. This is such crap. I can't believe we're talking about this. The Saratoga Springs Board of Education is defying President Trump's executive order by allowing biological males into girls' sports and locker rooms. Stefanik fumed on Tuesday. Go ahead.
Parents got to give their daughters guns. Put it this way. If I had a daughter and I saw some guy walking out of the locker room, that would be bad.
It's to the point where, if you go into a store, if you go into a Target or wherever you're going, if you got to buy something, and, occasionally my wife, if she has to go and use the ladies' room or whatever, I'll stand there and watch and wait. Not watch. Wait a minute. Let me correct myself.
Bathroom
I will
peeper.
Peephole Dan.
I will stand outside of the bathroom. Let me correct myself and watch that, no wackos go in there.
Who knows?
It's like I'm on patrol, trying to protect
Things
it.
you would never worry about. Forever in the history of humankind, you would never have to worry about that. Now you got to be on your guard for that. Good job, Democrats. Good job. It's upside down. It's just crazy.
Yeah, but who's gonna let their wife or their daughter be subjected to that? Now we have to protect them against these Democrats and against these crazy lunatic trannies and the wacko policies. Because now what you're noticing is a lot of these trannies now are not sincere about what they're doing. They're really going.
They don't have to be.
They're really going radical.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of it is even sincere. I don't think they're even doing it for the right reasons. I think
what they can get away with, probably, right?
Yeah. Because they're so in your face and angry and demanding and
needing therapy.
I do think
that's all.
I know. And you know, the sad part is, and I've said this before on the show, I know a couple people who are trans.
So do I.
They're very nice people.
Absolutely. And
they know who they are. And I love talking to them and having conversations with them. They're good people. But there's this whole slew of this new radical movement that's happening now that's just off the freaking rails.
Well, and again, back to the whole basic liberty concept. It's like, we don't care what other people do as long as they don't hurt us.
Right.
This is exactly the same thing. They're hurting those other people, but they don't see that they're hurting them. Yeah. They just care about, we need our rights. This has to happen. Everything has to change so that I can do whatever it is I want to do. Yeah. When has it ever been that way before? Ever.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just don't understand how the parents go along with it in Saratoga. Saratoga's become real liberal. Bad.
I'm just looking at some breaking news here from Trish Regan on LinkedIn. I don't normally do this, but I just got a notification. Pete Hegseth exposes Pentagon saboteurs. The Fights Media hit job to oust him. So Pete Hegseth is taking all sorts of hits right now. It's amazing. But so I want to get to one of our sponsors real quick here. Sorry. This device, the Kali key, removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. So did you know that when so-called assault weapon ban lists are created, they exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms? So just by dropping the Kali key into your direct impingement AR in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you will have a bolt-action rifle that falls outside the definition of an assault weapon. You don't have to do anything else. So give the Kali key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features, avoid registration complications, revive your black rifle sales as an FFL, regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in areas like Pennsylvania, enhance long-range precision in quiet or suppressed shooting. Kali Key has state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website and supports grassroots Second Amendment organizations with its sales. Kali Key's mission is to empower customers and claw back our civil liberties. So go to KaliKey.com and use the discount code LOADED. All right. So I want to get to, what do we got? We got one more thing. Can we have time for one more story, Danny, before we bring in Lewis? Okay. So let's go to this. This is another New York Post article. Trump administration refers New York AG Letitia James for potential prosecution over alleged mortgage fraud. Anthony's girl, Letitia James, is in big trouble. And the article goes on to talk about how she infamously declared that no one is above the law when she was targeting President Trump. She was hit recently with federal criminal referral instances of alleged mortgage fraud on Tuesday. So wow, this is a week ago. The Federal Housing FHFA director, William Polte, sent the missive to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche, alleging that James had falsified records to get home loans for property in Virginia that she claimed was her principal residence. So there's a couple things. So she did the one house in Virginia she said was her principal residence, when in fact she was living in Albany. She was required to live in Albany because she was AG of New York. So that's one thing. And then there was another thing where she said that the house was a 4-unit when it was really a 5-unit because insurance. And so she's not only that, but she's probably committed insurance fraud too, because if you insure your house as a 4-unit to try to get she was trying to get better rates on
dies
mortgage.
in that 5th unit, you're in big trouble.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So Trump is going after her, and I don't think he would have done it if she didn't already go after him. Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff we're talking about today. Yeah. That's what you did for years and years and years. Okay, here's how it feels, right? Check it out.
I think we have a clip. Do we have a clip of Tishy? Oh, Roger Stone. Let's watch this. This is really good.
She filed a power of attorney with the mortgage company in which she said that within 60 days of closing on this property, she would become a legal resident of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The problem with that, of course, is that would make her constitutionally ineligible to be the Attorney General of New York. And actually, I checked New York State law. The way it works is if you move out of state, the office is automatically vacated. There isn't even a hearing. So only one of two things can be true. Either she moved, in which case she's not eligible to be AG, or she didn't move, in which case she is guilty of mortgage fraud. That would be interesting if that was just the first case, but you go all the way back to her first mortgage, one that she got when she was 24 years old, fresh out of Howard University. She claimed that her father was her husband in order to use his balance sheet and his finances to qualify for the mortgage, and the mortgage was granted. If you look on the mortgage, it lists Tish James and her father, Robert James, as man and wife. But if you look at the title on the property, it correctly lists them as father and daughter. It's mortgage fraud. Then there's another instance in which she got a property in Virginia under a HAMP loan, a federal loan, that was specifically for investment properties of less than 4 units. So she qualified for and got this loan, but I had somebody go look at the property. It has 5 units, not eligible.
So the bottom line is pretty clear.
Scumbaggery.
Scumbaggery at its best, or at its worst, whatever you call it.
Yep.
How did Governor Ratface not know any of this? Or she did know it and just looked it over.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
See, if Hochul indicts Letitia James, Hochul's out. She doesn't win the next election.
Well, she's out anyway. She's not going to be reelected.
Wow.
She knows it. She's doing whatever she can right now in the next year and a half to destroy this state before she walks out the door.
You think she's gone? Yeah, well, I hope you're right.
Her approval rating in the city is just in the tank.
Well, she just had a 2-point bump or something, 2 or 4 point bump in approval. So they're all
that's all bull crap.
Well, they're all touting that as the
Probably
greatest
did a
thing.
makeup endorsement or something. All the ladies.
She's a dirtbag.
I think we're getting wound up here. So we'll be right back with our very special guest, Luis Valdez from Gun Owners of America. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be a great conversation right after this.
The Cali Key removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. It lets you keep your rifle with all its features, avoid registration hassles, and transport in hostile jurisdictions. The Cali Key also lets you hunt in jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and enhances long-range precision shooting. Cali Key's expert legal opinions empower informed decisions, and sales help grassroots Second Amendment organizations. Cali Key is your tool to keep and equip your AR, empower yourself, and defend your civil rights.
Our founding fathers saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. Join us in the fight to preserve your gun rights and stop unconstitutional gun control. Gun Owners of America is the country's only no-compromise gun rights organization. Not only do we inform and educate, but we bring the fight to court and win. Your God-given right to keep and bear arms is our top priority. Become a member today and help us take back America. Join us at gunowners.org. All right, we're back, and I want to introduce you to our next guest. His name is Luis Valdez, and he is the Florida director for Gun Owners of America. Luis, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, and I wish I was on the show to discuss far better topics than we're going to discuss today.
Yeah. Believe me too. Hopefully, Pam Bondi will do some good things with respect to ATF, and I mean, there are a few good things, but I wanted to talk more about the Gun-Free School Zones Act, what happened at Florida State University. You are the Florida director, so you got your finger on the pulse of all this stuff. As a matter of fact, so everybody knows, I recently wrote script for bullet points for GOA, and I had called up Lewis, and he sent me all sorts of stuff. He knows everything that's going on in Florida when it comes to gun laws. So, but Lewis, we talked about this Republican, Alina Garcia, who's a senator in Florida, who joined with the Democrats to kill a bill called SB 814, which would have allowed students to carry on campus. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so then State Senator Randy Fine, now a member of Congress, one of the last bills he introduced was a campus carry bill. It wasn't a really solid campus carry bill, but it was still a campus carry bill, and it was a step in the right direction. And the bill came up in committee. Now, this committee was majority Republican, but two of the Republican lawmakers left that committee before the vote. So it was basically 4-4. It was 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, if I remember correctly. I don't have the voting numbers in front of me right now and the full makeup of the committee. But what happened is with the other 2 Republicans that left that committee, you needed 4 Republicans to override. It was 7. There was only 7 members with the 2 that left. So you needed a majority of 4, to vote in favor, to move the bill to the next committee. Senator Garcia out of Miami, she voted against the bill, and she sided with anti-gun Democrats, and she blocked that bill from progressing in the legislature. And the sad thing is, this isn't the first time this has happened. Former state representative Joe Rudman out of the Panhandle, he reintroduced GOA's bill, which would have repealed the open carry ban, the red flag, would have repealed red flag laws and the campus carry ban. But he was basically forced out of the legislature this past January. And the reason why is he was elected for his second term in the House. And traditionally in Florida, after the elections, the House and the Senate does an organizational introductory session right after the elections, where they're going to put down the rules and say, okay, these are the key issues that we're going to tackle. This is the budget issues. This is the fiscal and social issues, yada, yada, yada. Well, the House Speaker, Danny Perez, basically told Representative Rudman, we are not the governor's female dog, but Rudman says it in the far more vulgar way. Also said that, we're not going to push a freedom caucus in the Republican-controlled state house. We're not going to really tackle 2A gun rights. We're not going to tackle fiscal conservatism. We're not going to tackle a number of things. So Rudman, being one of the most conservative members of the House, he literally says he's the second most conservative member, basically said, you know what? I'm not going to put up with this. I'm going to resign and go back to my private practice as a doctor and better help my community there, and run for an open seat for Congress. Maybe I could do better in D.C. He didn't win the primary for D.C., but he's back at his private practice as a doctor in the Panhandle, serving the residents of his community. And he honestly he told me he feels better doing that than he did being in the state house, because he felt that nothing would have been able to have been accomplished there. And it would have been a drain on Florida's taxpayers for him collecting a salary, being able to do nothing for his constituency.
What happened to Florida? I don't get it. From being outside of Florida, the whole country is looking at Florida like this is like the most conservative state right now. But it's not. It's not, is it?
So you know how a lot of work goes into make believe and Imagineering at Disney World? Yeah. It's the same thing with Florida politics. A lot of make believe and Imagineering goes into make people think that Florida is the most conservative state in the country, when clearly we're not. In reality, in terms of gun rights, we're the bottom tier of Republican states on gun rights. We're the only Republican state to have mandatory waiting periods, red flag laws, an open carry ban, an under 21 purchase and carry ban, campus carry, a bump stock ban that is so erroneously written it bans force reset triggers, binary triggers. And get this, if you get a factory Glock with a 5.5-pound connector and put a 3.5-pound connector, congratulations, you have increased the rate of fire, and that is now a possible felony you could be charged with.
It's crazy. You guys got any questions for Lewis?
Has this been going on for a long time, Lewis, or is this just newly developed? Or I'm wondering how it can be, because it seems, like you say, contrary to what we all believe.
This has been going on for over a decade now. So regarding FSU, sadly, this isn't the first time a shooting has even happened on FSU campus. If you go all the way back to 2013 with the Strozier Library shooting, one of the people that was shot and injured was a licensed concealed carry permit holder who followed state law, voluntarily disarmed themselves. And the end result was that the shooter shot this individual, and this individual couldn't protect himself or other individuals in the library from this attack. And in reality, even going back to 2011, when an open carry bill was being pushed through, Republicans in the Senate gutted it. State Senator Eileen Bogendoff turned it to a accidental exposure bill in 2011 from a full open carry bill. Now, here's the thing. In 2012, I was still a cop. I was off duty riding my motorcycle in Dade County. I was on the Palmetto Expressway, and a marked Miami-Dade PD unit was going to pass me on the right side. So on camera, that's, on the left side, but in reality, it was the right side. And my T-shirt was flapping. So, of course, my Glock was visible. Slams on the brakes, pulls up behind me, lights me up. I get off on the first available exit because I'm sure not going to pull over into the emergency lane on an expressway wanting to get hit. And, I pull off, safe spot, get off the bike, and immediately he holds me at gunpoint, and I'm like, yo, whoa, what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm going to arrest you for open carry. I'm like, bro, I'm a licensed concealed carry permit holder, and I'm a cop. Like, this was just an accidental exposure. And literally, once he sees my credentials, he goes, oh, you're cool. I'm not going to arrest you then.
Wow.
But if you weren't a cop, I would have. And I just sat there, I stood there dumbfounded going like, this makes no sense. We just passed a bill that literally prevents this very thing from happening.
What was that bill? What was that bill exactly? Was that open carry?
It was going to be an open carry bill, and they gutted it and whittled it down to accidental exposure back in 2011. And my incident with Miami-Dade PD was in 2012. And going on later that in the 2010s, open carry was introduced multiple times. The Republican leadership killed it. Campus carry was introduced multiple times. Now Congressman Greg Steube introduced it multiple times when he was a state senator. You had Anatira Flores, a Republican, block it. And then you had another Republican the following year, Rene Garcia, block it. And, one of the shocking things is one of the people that spoke in support of campus carry was an FSU rape victim. And she flat out said, if campus carry was there, I would have been able to defend myself. And they still blocked the legislation. I'll never forget what she said. She said, so you basically support rapists to go on university campuses and ply their trade and victimize people like me. And, as a father of a 5-year-old girl, I find, those words were seared in my brain because I have a daughter. And on top of that, my wife worked at FSU for 10 years and she was disarmed. And look, FSU is not in the nicest part of town in Tallahassee. A lot of dirtbags go onto campus to commit burglary, to commit bodily harm, to commit rape, to commit strong arm robberies and muggings because they know their victims are disarmed.
So how do they, and you're closer to these Florida Republicans and, bureaucrats, any of them, but how do they justify this? They know that unarmed people, they have to know that unarmed people are put in danger, but how are they justifying it? Do they actually believe that killing a campus carry bill will keep students safe?
Well, you're talking about a lot of lawmakers in office today were there during Parkland, and they were the ones that voted in favor of red flag laws, raising the age to over 21 for purchasing of a firearm, mandatory waiting periods, and a bump stock ban. So to them, the idea is that gun control works. And the worst thing that happened with Parkland is, other than the fact that you and I know gun control doesn't work, gun control doesn't save lives, because as we saw, all of the gun control that was pushed after Parkland didn't stop what happened last week at FSU, sadly.
Right.
But the worst thing politically out of this is they didn't lose elections. They gained seats.
It's amazing.
So they feel emboldened that, oh, we could just step on one of the most conservative bases of our voters, gun owners, and we're still going to win races.
And you know what? The media takes these Florida killings and just runs wild with them. Parkland was just off the charts as far as media and propaganda. Yeah. And then you get the silly little David Hogg guy come out of that. You get all this stuff, and it went on. And then you had the Scott Peterson issues and the police chief Israel issues, and then you had the big conference where they got all the anti-gun liberals together in a big area, and they brought Dana Lash in, and they had all these people in, and they just tore Dana apart. Parkland was their, like, the fuel to this anti-gun propaganda, and Florida was right at the center of it. What are your thoughts on all that, all the propaganda and all the media and all that stuff? How do they contribute to these things?
I was the only cop to publicly speak before the legislature against gun control in the state of Florida.
Wow.
And the propaganda was unbelievably well-funded, well-crafted. I mean, I remember being at the Capitol and seeing all of the red shirts, all the Moms Demand Actions and other Michael Bloomberg funded groups. And I was in plainclothes attire. I was in a suit and tie, so people didn't know who I was. And I talked to a lot of them while waiting to speak before the committees. And one of the interesting things is none of this was grassroots. This was all AstroTurf. Like a good chunk of them were professionals from the various teachers unions and the parent teaching organizations across South Florida that were bussed up professionally. They were paid for their time, and when they got there, they were all given shirts to wear to show as if this was grassroots and unified, when it clearly wasn't. And they were given their marching orders, and it was very controlled. And the most appalling thing is when Parkland happened in the legislature, from the bill being introduced to going on then Governor Rick Scott's desk, it was 16 days. They pushed a 1,000-page bill. They drafted it in less than a week. They pushed it through in 16 days, got it signed into law. When your average Florida session is, by law, it's 60 days. Wow. But on average, they spend 3/4 of that arguing what is going to be the state pie. But they were able to push a massive gargantuan bill through in 16 days, which means that a lot of this was pre-written and sitting on someone's desk already.
Oh, they're ready for it. Just like in New York, they did the same thing with the Concealed Carry Improvement Act. Right after the Bruin case, 8 days later, Hochul comes out with the Concealed Carry Improvement Act. They had it ready to go. But sorry, go ahead.
Like Rahm Emanuel said, never let a crisis go to waste. And they didn't let a crisis go to waste in Florida. And just going into all of this, the political fallout from all of this since then was that then Senate President Bill Galvano was given $500,000 by Michael Bloomberg, who he then distributed through his PAC to other Republican lawmakers' PACs as a thank you for voting in favor of the Parkland bill. Wilton Simpson, the current Commissioner of Agriculture in Florida, then as Senate President after Bill Galvano, he blocked constitutional carry, open carry, and campus carry while he was in. He campaigned on pushing through the Parkland gun control bill. The current legislative leadership, who followed after him, Kathleen Pasadomo, same thing. The current Senate President, Ben Albritton, same thing. You have this entire political machine of Republican legislative leaderships in the House and the Senate who have blocked pro-gun legislation for now over a decade, and they just follow the same marching orders over and over and over and over again.
So,
but they don't have the nerves to campaign that they're pro-gun.
So, Lewis, I want to ask you the question, what's the underlying motivation? But I want you to think about that for a second. I want to get to one of our sponsors real quick. And then I want to get right back into this. LifeWave is a non-transdermal patch that allows your body to produce its own natural pharmacy. So through light energy, the X39 patch tells your body to emit heat in the form of light, which reflects back into your body, elevating a certain copper peptide. Now, this peptide activates your stem cells, which are the only type that can move throughout your body to heal inflammation. LifeWave offers an affordable membership and has a history of wellness that spans 20 years. It's been around since 2004 to help organizations like SEAL Team 6 and the Olympic swim team stay awake and alert. Today, these non-addictive patches are used by thousands of athletes and military professionals. A LifeWave is available in over 80 countries, giving millions the opportunity of maximum wellness. So for more information, testimonials, patents, and studies, go to justpatch.biz. All right, so Louis, I'm really interested in, you just got done telling us about all these people who essentially are bought off, it sounds like. So what is the underlying motivation? Is it to kill gun ownership for the purpose of tyranny? Is it just individual financial gain? What is it? What's going on? What's the underlying causes of gun control in the state of Florida, in your opinion?
A lot of it comes down to its politics. Remember, only 36% of Floridians are native born, which means the rest of them either come from typically the Northeast or from Latin America. And as a Cuban myself, one of the very first things I grew up on, it was free people are armed, disarmed people are slaves to the state.
Yeah.
But you have the Florida Republican Party is made up of basically two classes of people. A lot of the anti-gunners. They're either former Jim Crow segregationist Democrats that don't like the idea of minority and people of color being armed, or there are a lot of Northeast Country Club Republicans that don't like the idea of minority people of color being armed because, they're the hired help.
So it really is, you're saying it's a racial thing. It really is, huh?
I've been to Republican Party quarterly meetings. I've had Republican Party officials tell me in my face, we can't have constitutional open carry in Florida. God forbid my wife goes to the Piggly Wiggly and sees a black guy carrying a gun.
That's pretty convoluted. It rings true to me, but that really is sinister, right? That's crazy.
So basically, Florida is getting the scumbaggery of Northeast down there and destroying it.
Yeah. The people from New York and New Jersey and Maine and everybody.
Wow.
Yep.
One of the former chairman of the Second Amendment Committee of the Republican Party of Florida, we actually have him on audio. He flat out said, look, I'm against open carry. I'm against constitutional carry. I'm against campus carry. I'm against GOA. I'm against all of this. And this guy is a retired Jersey cop. And at one of the quarterly meetings, he flat out told me that it's not gun rights. It's not armed people that keep society safe. It's the courts that keep society safe.
Oh, God.
And he was literally bragging about, well, I'm a special individual because I'm covered under the National Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. And I just kind of laughed because he whipped out his badge like it was his precious ring from Lord of the Rings. I was like, yeah, bro, I got one of those too. Guess what? I'm not a special individual. Everyone in this room should be able to carry nationwide. My wife, who is my partner in life, who I trust with my life, should be able to carry nationwide. Just because you and I chose a certain profession doesn't grant us more privilege. We're not like Europe, we're not Europe of old with landed gentry and knights where we get to rule over the peasants. Our nation was founded on the basis of equality and egalitarianism. But that was literally the guy running the Second Amendment Committee of the Republican Party of Florida. That's the guy who was telling Republican Party lawmakers, hey, yeah, it's okay if you do this.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I had no idea until I talked to you the other night on the phone how bad Florida Republicans are.
Well, that happens, I think, in a lot of states that people migrate to, right?
I guess,
people
apparently,
go from California and go to Texas, and people in Texas complain, don't bring your crap here.
Yeah, don't California or Texas, right?
Well, and the problem with Florida is it's not just that. The other half of this is, again, the Southern Jim Crow, bigoted, anti-gun Democrats who swapped their jerseys for Team R, and now they run as Republicans. Up in the Panhandle, you literally had one of the county level Republican parties campaign for a Democrat sheriff who's known to be an anti-gun guy, just because, oh yeah, he's a good old boy, we've known him forever type deal. Again, one of the guys that told me at the quarterly meeting, no, we can't have black people carry guns. My wife might see it. He was like a 5th generation Floridian. Wow. So it's this melding of Jim Crow bigots and Northeast Country Club Republicans, and both of them just don't like the idea of the common people being armed. To them, they see themselves as this aristocracy, that they are the landed gentry and they know better than everyone else. And it's this horrible political melding of both of those ideologies into a lot of the undercurrent in the Florida Republican political establishment with a number of lawmakers. And the worst thing is that, and I'm not trying to insult people from the Northeast. Look, half my family, when they fled communist Cuba to the United States,
it's okay. It's okay. We're from the Northeast.
I know, but half my family settled in New Jersey. So, it's not that everyone up there is bad, but the other half of this is like people that flee New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, for example, when they come to Florida and they see it that, oh, it's a shell issue permit and I only have to wait 90 days. Hey, it's better than what I had in New York City.
Yeah.
Oh, they ban open carry, but you know what? I could at least carry a gun. Hey, it's better than what I had in Jersey. It's that mindset. They don't see the need to invest the time, energy, and political capital to make Florida even better with the rest of the Republican states and even the southern states, because Georgia and Alabama, they have full constitutional carry, open and concealed. Yeah. Georgia has campus carry. Florida doesn't have any of that. We just have permitless concealed only carry. And even then, it's an affirmative defense, because you could still be arrested and you have to prove that you are legally qualifying under the statute to carry without a permit. And going to open carry, we had part of our lawsuit in Florida is one of the people that's part of our cases, a father in Volusia County, Daytona Beach, was protecting his daughter from a loose pit bull. And in Florida, one of the few places you can open carry is your own property. He was in his front yard. Daytona Beach PD pulled up to do a welfare check, coincidentally, on the neighbor, the owner of the dog. And he asked the cops, hey, help me get this dog under control. It's menacingly being aggressive towards my daughter. The cops saw that he was open carrying on his property. They didn't deal with the dog. They immediately cuffed him and charged him with open carry. Now, we got, eventually the charges were dropped. But the biggest issue was he had to prove to the state attorney's office, no, I was on my own property. And the state attorney was like, oh, okay, it's an affirmative defense. Yeah, we'll drop the charges.
So you think the cops would know? I mean, the cops should know these laws, right?
No.
The new police today are not the police of 10, 20 years ago. They are woke.
Look,
I'm telling you, man. You watch some of the videos.
Even the cops 20 years ago didn't know it.
It's bad.
It's especially bad in Florida, because I could give you 2 other stories from my days as a cop. One was,
Louis, I don't know. We don't have much time, but I want you to tell, if you could tell us briefly. And I also wanted you to talk about Gun Owners of America and your involvement with them. I know we've got probably about another 5 minutes here, so I want to make sure we get everything in, because there's so much. So go ahead.
So basically, the issues with Florida is that you have this political establishment that, for the most part, is anti-gun. They're weak on censoring and punishing anti-gun Republicans. They run on a false mandate of being pro-gun, but their actions speak louder than words. Clearly, they're not. And my involvement in this has been even before I was with GOA. As a private citizen and as a police officer, I spoke in support of pro-gun legislation and spoke against anti-gun legislation. And my involvement in GOA got very simple. When Parkland happened, I reached out to GOA. I wasn't a member yet. And I asked for their help to help organize a pro-gun rally at the Capitol to fight the Parkland bill. GOA contacted me back. It was Eric Pratt, senior leadership. And he said, what do you need? And I told him, and came down, helped fight the fight. and I became GOA's eyes and ears for the next 2 years. And in 2020, I hanged up the badge. I didn't want my daughter going through what I went through as a second-gen cop. I remember my dad working weekends and holidays and birthdays and all that. And Eric called me up and asked, hey, what's going on in Florida? And I told him, nicest guy in the world. How's the family? How's work? How's this? I told him, I hanged up the badge. He goes, oh, good. You're our Florida State Director.
That's cool.
I was dumbfounded. I looked at my phone like, get out of town. And he goes, no, I'm serious. But since then, I've been the Florida Director for GOA, and we've been pushing the fight here nonstop to the point that we have filed a lawsuit against Florida's open carry ban and under 21 carry ban, because all adults should be able to exercise their rights. And GOA is the only no compromise gun rights organization, both in Florida and across the country. And if people want to get involved, it's real simple. It's $25 a year. Every penny goes towards the fight. It's real simple. Go to gunowners.org/join. Again, it's $25 a year. And if anyone wants to follow me directly on social media, it's just Real FL Gun Lobby.
Excellent. Yeah, and we do a lot with GOA here. I do the bullet point series for GOF, which is Gun Owners Foundation. So if people want to go to YouTube and look up Gun Owners Foundation, you'll find all the bullet points videos. And one current one now is one that we're talking about right here with Lewis, a video where I discuss the FSU killing and all the stuff we're talking about today. So, Lewis, what are we gonna do? What's Florida look like over the next 10, 20 years?
Well, hopefully Florida looks like a bastion of actual conservatism and gets better in the next decade. That's what we're fighting here for. That's what we're educating people here on. That's what we're doing grassroots activism on. And we're building a solid coalition. We're building a solid undercurrent where people are seeing the realities of what's going on in Florida, and they're questioning their lawmakers. They're saying, look, I voted for you. I didn't vote for this. I voted for what you campaigned on, and you're not doing that. And a lot of people are angry with their lawmakers right now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. You got something quick for Lewis?
What I just don't understand is how a federal constitution, Second Amendment, is being trampled on by these states. I don't know when did it get started and why did it get so out of control?
Well, that's a good question. It's going to be
We should have them back on. We should
it's
have them
gonna
back
be a
on
little-
again.
Yeah, we'll have you back on, Lewis, definitely. But there's so much more to talk about. But, hey, we appreciate it. Give us your website again. Where can people find you?
Real simple. It's gunowners.org. And to follow me on social media, Real FL Gun Lobby.
Thanks so much, pal. You're the best. We appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching the show today on YouTube and Rumble. And thanks for listening on all our podcast platforms. You can find us just about anywhere. But my name's Dan Wass, and I want you to remember that the Second Amendment is not a privilege. It's your right.